This year we're going to get to see a bigger look at Sam Wilson as Captain America, as well as Bucky and John Walker as they become part of the Thunderbolts. But these plotlines were actually kind of set up by the Falcon and Winter Soldier series, so in this video we're going to be looking back on that series and seeing if it was good, bad, or somewhere in the middle. Welcome back to the Shortwave Show, everyone. Glad you could tune in to just kind of hop right into the review for the Falcon and Winter Soldier. This is a series that I think is kind of underrated, while at the same time having some flaws. Now, the main thing I really do appreciate is that it kind of follows up the ending of Endgame, where you get to see more of Sam Wilson and him feeling like he really shouldn't have had the shield and deciding to put it in the museum, but ultimately realizing his mistake. And they kind of explore Bucky a little bit more as well, where we get to see how he's kind of dealing with all of this trauma after being the Winter Soldier for so long and just trying to adapt to the modern world. And I think these are two characters that really needed to be put front and center and explored more, because they had been side characters in pretty much every movie they were in. And while Infinity War and Endgame were definitely great movies, there were so many characters in them, there just wasn't enough time to put much focus on these two characters. And so overall, I think this show actually works very well on a character level. It introduces us to some new people like John Walker, who for some reason is annoying and kind of like one of the best characters at the same time, because he's like so bad that it's funny.
I understand that! I understand that!
And so I honestly just can't wait to see more of him. And then you have some other characters in here like Val, the new guy that's turning into the Falcon, and Isaiah Bradley that are going to appear in some more MCU projects. And so the series definitely does a good job of setting things up for the future in the MCU. And it also just does a good job of connecting to other parts of the MCU, where you have the Wakanda Warriors making a few appearances. There's a cameo with Rhodey. Of course, you have the return of Zemo, which I really liked, although I wish he actually wore his mask more. And of course, Sharon Carter plays a huge role in this story, where she's actually the power broker. I mean, it's just the craziest twist of all time. I was so shocked, guys.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah, actually, it was pretty predictable. And so that's kind of a big problem with this show. A lot of the execution on certain plot points just really aren't the best. A lot of the writing isn't great. Of course, when it comes to the villains of this show, you kind of have the Flag Smashers using the Super Soldier Serum, being led by the villainous Carly. And I do think this show definitely explores some interesting ideas about after the blip, how it kind of would have messed up society when half of the population is gone for 5 years and then returns. And even some other projects in the MCU have been doing stuff like that. But just some of the messaging in this show and the execution of that messaging is just a little bit questionable.
You've got to do better, Senator.
And while there is some pretty good action throughout the show, even a few little funny bits here and there, one thing that I really felt while watching was that the budget felt a little bit low. And obviously when it comes to TV shows, their budgets are never going to be as big as the movies. But when it's Disney doing stuff with Marvel and Star Wars, they have much bigger budgets than typical TV shows. And so I just felt like some of the locations they filmed on and that kind of stuff looked a little bit bland. And even the pacing throughout the show didn't always feel great. It definitely felt a little slower in certain parts. But still, nonetheless, I think this show definitely has more to offer than what a lot of people give it credit for. It has its problems, but for the most part, I enjoyed it. And if you're trying to keep up with the whole MCU timeline, I mean, you definitely got to check this out. So overall, on the quality scale of 0 to 100, I'll give it a 73%. And if you're a huge Marvel fan and you have to keep up with the timeline like I just mentioned, I would definitely recommend this, but otherwise it's not a must-watch show. And I will definitely say I'm not the biggest fan of how at the end of this show it changes its name from the Falcon and Winter Soldier to Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Because even though I get what they were doing by changing it from Falcon to Captain America, because that's what Sam Wilson does, why would they leave it the Winter Soldier when part of the show is how Bucky's not the Winter Soldier anymore? They really must not have been thinking on that one. But still, nonetheless, let me know if you're excited to see these characters appear in some new movies this year. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.